For years, the story of Hilary Duff and Mike Comrie sounded like one of those rare, quiet Hollywood separations. No public fights, no scandal, no dramatic headlines. Just two people who fell out of love and moved on. But now, Hilary is finally opening the door to what really happened behind that decision, and the truth is far more emotional than anyone expected. When she looks back at that time, she doesn't remember a single explosive moment where everything collapsed. There was no one night, no betrayal, no defining argument. Instead, it was a slow and honest realization that something essential between them was no longer there. She described it as reaching a point where it simply wasn't working anymore, and the most striking part is how calm that realization sounds. Not cold, not distant, just real. The kind of truth that's incredibly hard to accept when you have built a life with someone and, most importantly, when you have a child together. Because for Hilary, the end of the marriage was never really about her. It was about Luca. At the time, he was just a toddler, too young to understand what was happening but old enough for her to fear the emotional impact it could have on him. She has admitted that the scariest part of that entire period wasn't losing her relationship, it was the overwhelming pressure of wanting to make the right decisions for her son. She didn't allow herself to fully process the heartbreak, the confusion, or the fear. She pushed everything down so she could stay strong for him. Her only focus was making sure he felt safe, loved, and secure in a moment that could have easily turned his world upside down. She remembers how intentional they were about every single interaction after the separation. It wasn't about quick drop-offs or awkward exchanges. They would go to the park together, sit down for meals, spend time as a unit even though they were no longer a couple. That choice wasn't for appearances. It was for Luca. She wanted him to grow up feeling that his parents were still a team when it came to loving him. In a world where celebrity breakups often turn into public battles, what they created was something almost unheard of, a peaceful transition from marriage to co-parenting. What makes her story even more powerful is that there is no bitterness in the way she talks about Mike. She doesn't rewrite their history as a mistake. Instead, she remembers the fun they had, the freedom of those early years, the adventure of following his hockey career from city to city without worrying about her own professional path. At that time in her life, she wasn't thinking about building an empire or planning her next move. She was simply in love and enjoying the life they were creating together. And she still honors that version of herself. That perspective says a lot about who Hilary Duff has become. Because it would be easy, and very expected, to frame the past as something painful or wasted. But she doesn't. She talks about it as a chapter that mattered. A chapter that gave her her first child. A chapter that helped shape the woman she is today. Now, years later, her life looks completely different. She has a full, vibrant family with Matthew Comrie. More children, more stability, more self-awareness. But she has also been very open about how much personal work it took to get there. Therapy, reflection, and a deep desire to understand herself better. She didn't just move on, she grew. And that growth is what makes her recent interview feel so raw and honest. Because it isn't just about a divorce. It's about learning when to let go of something with grace instead of holding on out of fear. It's about choosing your child's emotional health over your own pride. It's about redefining what a successful relationship looks like, even when it ends. She also touched on other parts of her life that fans have speculated about for years. The rumors of toxic mom groups, the old rivalry with Lindsay Lohan, the complicated relationship with her sister, and even her memories of Aaron Carter. Each story carried the same tone. Time changes everything. Things that once felt huge now feel small. Conflicts that once defined her no longer have power over her. There's a calmness in the way she speaks about her past, as if she has finally made peace with every version of herself that the public has watched grow up. What stands out the most is how grounded she sounds. This is someone who has lived her entire life in the spotlight, who has gone through public breakups, public feuds, and public reinventions, and yet, the most important achievement in her eyes is not a hit show or a chart-topping album. It's raising her children in a healthy, loving environment. Her story challenges the way we usually think about endings. Because in Hollywood, a breakup is often framed as a failure. But for Hilary, it wasn't a failure. It was a decision made with care, with maturity, and with a long-term vision for her child's happiness. And in that sense, it might be one of the most successful endings we've ever seen. There's something deeply powerful about the idea that love can change form without turning into war. That two people can recognize the truth, step away from a marriage, and still protect the family they created together. It's not dramatic. It's not messy. It doesn't generate scandal, but it is incredibly rare. And maybe that's why her story is resonating so strongly now. Because in a culture that feeds on chaos, Hilary Duff is showing us a different kind of narrative, one where growth is louder than conflict, where peace is more important than being right, and where the real success of a relationship is not how long it lasts, but how respectfully it ends.